This is a story about a magical pocket watch that can stop time and the price its young owner must pay. A teenage boy discovers an old pocket watch that freezes the world around him. At first, it feels like fun and power, but he soon learns that every use comes with a heavy cost. Listen and let this exciting story also help you improve your English. I never thought my summer would change my life. Most days were the same. Wake up late, eat cereal, play games, and scroll on my phone. Nothing new, nothing special. But that was before I found the watch. It started in my grandfather's attic. The air smelled of dust and old wood, and the light came through a small round window. I wasn't even looking for treasure. I just wanted to find some old comics, or maybe an old guitar. But then I saw it, a small wooden box, hidden under blankets. The lock was broken, and I could open it with my hand. Inside was a pocket watch, silver, but dark with age. Its chain was tangled like a knot of snakes. When I touched it, the metal felt cold, too cold for a summer day. And there was something strange about it. A little button on the side, shaped like a star. My grandfather had never spoken about it, but I felt it was waiting for me. I laughed a little. Cool, I thought. Now I look like a fancy old man. I put it in my pocket, not knowing that from this moment my summer, and maybe my whole life, would never be the same. That night I sat on my bed, turning the watch in my hands. The chain made a soft sound, like coins in a pocket. The little star button caught my eye. It almost shone, even though the light in my room was weak. I whispered to myself, what happens if I press it? Of course, I expected nothing. Maybe the watch would just tick faster or make a sound. So I pressed it. At first, nothing seemed different. My lamp still glowed. My posters still hung on the wall, and the neighbor's dog still barked. But then I noticed the dog's bark was stuck. One long sound, like someone had pressed pause on a video. I stood up, my heart racing. I looked outside. Cars on the street had stopped. A man on a bicycle was frozen, one leg in the air. The wind stopped too. Leaves hung still, like painted pictures. Everything had stopped, except me. I laughed nervously. No way. This is impossible. I pressed the button again. Suddenly, sound returned. The dog barked normally. The cyclist kept riding. The leaves danced in the wind. And I stood there, with a watch that could stop time in my pocket. The next morning, I couldn't stop thinking about the watch. My brain was buzzing. What if it really works? What if I can stop the world whenever I want? At school, I decided to test it. During math class, Mr. Peters was writing numbers on the board. He loved numbers more than life itself. I pressed the button. Silence. Chalk dust hung in the air like snowflakes. Mr. Peters' hand froze in midair. My classmates looked like statues, mouths open, eyes half blinked. It was both creepy and amazing. I walked around the room. I even waved my hand in front of Lily's face. She didn't move. I took a candy from Jake's desk. Thanks, Jake, I said, laughing. He didn't answer, of course. Then I pressed the button again. The chalk fell. Mr. Peters kept writing, and Jake looked confused when his candy was gone. I almost burst out laughing, but I forced myself to stay quiet. Nobody knew. Only me. At that moment, I felt like the king of the world. But I had no idea the price I would pay later. After school, I couldn't resist. I pressed the button again in the hallway. Everyone froze mid-step. Lockers stayed open, books hanging in the air like they had no weight. I walked up to my best friend, Max. He was about to drink from his water bottle. I carefully turned it upside down in his frozen hand. Then I pressed the button again. Water splashed all over his shirt. He jumped back, shouting, "What the?" I laughed so hard I almost fell on the floor. He had no idea it was me. Nobody did. For the next few days, I played small tricks, switching people's backpacks, moving signs in the cafeteria, even finishing tests while everyone else sat frozen. It felt fun, like a secret game only I could play. But something started to bother me. Every time I used the watch, I felt tired. Not just, I need a nap tired, but deep inside. My head hurt, my hands shook, and my chest felt heavy. At first, I told myself it was nothing. Just excitement. Just nerves. But in the back of my mind, a tiny voice whispered, "What if the watch takes something from you every time you use it?" One night, I decided to test my fear. I sat at my desk with the watch in front of me. My room was quiet, only the ticking of the clock on the wall. "Okay," I whispered. "Let's see how bad it is." I pressed the button once. The ticking stopped. The second hand froze in place. I waited 1 minute, then pressed the button again. The clock moved, life went on, and I felt fine. I tried again. This time, I stayed in frozen time for 10 minutes. I walked around, read a comic, ate some chips. When I pressed the button again, my head spun like I had been on a roller coaster. My hands shook so hard I almost dropped the watch. "Okay," I said out loud. "That's not good." But I didn't stop. Something about the power was too strong. It was like having wings. You don't just stop flying because it makes you tired. I started to wonder, what was the real cost? Was it just energy, or was it something worse? At that moment, I wasn't ready to know the answer. A week later, the watch saved me. Or maybe it cursed me. I'm still not sure. I was crossing the street, headphones on, not looking. Suddenly, a car came speeding around the corner. I froze, like a rabbit in headlights. My body refused to move. Then my hand touched the watch in my pocket. Instinct. Click. The car stopped mid-scream of its horn. The driver's face was twisted in panic, but frozen. Time was still. I stepped aside, my legs shaking. The car stood only inches from where I had been. I pressed the button again. The car zoomed past, missing me completely. People shouted. Someone yelled, "Watch where you're going, kid." I just nodded, pretending everything was normal. Inside, I was trembling. Without the watch, I would have been dead. That night, I stared at the ceiling and thought, maybe the watch wasn't just a toy. Maybe it was a gift. Or maybe it was a trap. And I couldn't stop asking myself, how many times would I use it before the price became too high? After the accident, I promised myself to use the watch only in real danger. But promises are easy to break. One morning, I forgot to study for a history test. Everyone else bent over their papers, writing fast. I sat there blank. My teacher, Mrs. Brown, watched us like a hawk. I sighed, touched the watch, and pressed the button. Silence. Pen stopped in midair. Mrs. Brown froze, with her glasses halfway down her nose. I walked to her desk and flipped through the answer sheet. I copied everything I needed. Then I pressed the button again. Time flowed. My pen moved like lightning. Mrs. Brown raised her eyebrow. "Well, someone studied," she said. I smiled, pretending to be proud of myself. But inside, guilt crawled in my stomach. I knew I cheated. I knew it wasn't fair. Still, part of me whispered, why not? Nobody gets hurt. Nobody knows. You have the power. Why not use it? But another part whispered louder. Every time you use it, you pay. I just didn't know how high the bill would be. One morning, I noticed something new. When I looked in the mirror, there was a faint line under my eye, like a wrinkle. I was only 16. No way. I rubbed my face, thinking it was just bad sleep. But the line stayed. My skin looked a little paler too. I tried not to panic. Okay, maybe I'm tired. Too many late nights. Too much gaming. But deep inside, I knew. It was the watch. To be sure, I did another test. I pressed the button and stayed in frozen time for 30 minutes. I walked through town, peeked into shops, even sat on a park bench watching birds hang still in the sky. When I pressed the button again, sound returned, but my chest ached and my hands were cold. Back in my room, I checked the mirror. Now there were two faint lines under my eyes. I whispered, no way, it's stealing time from me. The thought hit me like ice. Maybe the watch didn't just stop time. Maybe it was taking it from me. I tried to stay away from the watch. I really did. I put it back in the box and shoved it under my bed. For a few days, I didn't touch it. The lines under my eyes faded a little, and I started to feel normal again. But life has a way of tempting you. One afternoon, Max called. Come quick. Lily fell off her bike. She's bleeding bad. I ran. When I got there, Lily was lying on the ground, blood running down her leg. Max was panicking, dialing his phone, but his hands were shaking too much. I didn't think. I just pressed the button. The world froze. Lily's face was stuck in pain, Max's mouth open in a scream. I ran to the corner store, grabbed a first aid kit, and came back. I cleaned her cut, wrapped it tight. When I pressed the button again, time moved. Lily gasped, looking confused at the bandage. Max blinked. What? How did you? I just shrugged. I had some tissues. That night, I stared at the watch. My secret was dangerous, but sometimes it could save people, and that made it harder to give up. The next day, I woke up feeling different. My head hurt, like a drum inside. My hands were shaky, and I had trouble walking straight. I looked in the mirror. Another line had appeared under my eyes. I touched my face. It wasn't just fatigue. The watch was taking something from me. Something important. I wanted to stop using it. I really did. But I couldn't. Not after yesterday. Not after seeing Lily safe. I tried pressing the button again, just a little, to see if I could control it. The second I did, I felt dizzy. My vision blurred, and for a moment I thought I might faint. Then a voice echoed in my head. Not a real voice, but a feeling. Every time you use me, you pay. How much will you give before it's too late? I dropped the watch. It clattered on the floor. I sat there, trembling. The power was tempting, but the cost was real. And I started to realize, maybe the watch wasn't a toy. Maybe it was a lesson. A week later, I made a mistake. A huge one. I was at the park, waiting for Max and Lily. I spotted a boy climbing a tree, about to fall. My first thought, save him. My second thought, press the button. I did. Time froze. I ran to the boy, grabbed him just in time, and set him on the ground. I pressed the button again. Everything moved. The boy ran off, scared but okay. Max and Lily didn't see anything. I smiled, but then I noticed something terrifying. I looked down. My arms were thinner, my skin paler. I felt weak. My head spun. Lines had deepened under my eyes, and my chest hurt like my heart was carrying rocks. I collapsed onto the grass. I realized then, the watch had taken more than time. It was stealing my life, bit by bit. I had used it too much. I had paid too high a price. And now I didn't know if I could stop. I sat on the grass, holding the watch, my hands shaking. The world around me looked normal, but I felt like a ghost. My chest hurt, my vision blurred, and every breath felt heavy. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't keep using it. Not like this. Not if it kept stealing my life. But part of me wanted to press the button one last time. Just to fix everything. To rewind a mistake. To save someone. To feel powerful again. I stared at the little star button. My fingers hovered over it. I imagined the world frozen. My mistakes gone. But then I looked at my reflection in a puddle nearby. Lines under my eyes. Pale skin, weakness. I saw what the watch had taken. I swallowed hard and whispered, "No, not again." With trembling hands, I put the watch in my pocket, walked to the edge of the park, and threw it into the river. Silver flash. Then it disappeared under the water. I felt a weight lift off my chest, but I also felt fear. What if it wasn't gone forever? After that day, life felt normal, maybe even boring. I still went to school, played games, and hung out with Max and Lily. But I noticed something important. I was alive, really alive, without any magic or shortcuts. The lines under my eyes slowly faded. My chest felt lighter. I could run, laugh, and breathe without pain. I even started appreciating little things, like the sound of the wind, the way sunlight bounced off leaves, and Max's terrible jokes. Sometimes I thought about the watch. Did someone else find it? Was it waiting for another kid? I didn't know. I didn't want to know. I had learned my lesson the hard way. Power was tempting. It was exciting. But it came with a price too high for me to pay. And that was okay. I was happy to live my life, one moment at a time, without freezing it. Years later, I still remember the watch. Not with fear, but with a strange mix of awe and gratitude. It taught me something important. Life is fragile, and every moment matters. You can't pause it, rewind it, or skip it. You have to live it. Sometimes I tell the story to friends, careful not to sound crazy. I once found a watch that could stop time, I say, and they laugh. They think it's a joke. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't. I've grown taller, stronger, and maybe a little wiser. But I still catch myself staring at clocks, wondering what it would feel like to freeze the world for just a moment. And then I smile, shake my head, and keep moving. Because life doesn't wait, and neither should I. Now, I understand something I didn't as a kid. The real power isn't in stopping time. It's in choosing how you spend it. Every laugh, every tear, every small moment counts. I've made mistakes like anyone, but I've learned to live with them instead of trying to freeze them. I try to help when I can, love when I can, and enjoy the little things before they're gone. Sometimes I catch a glimpse of silver in the water or an old reflection in a mirror, and I think of the watch. I don't want it anymore. I don't need it. Because I've realized time isn't something to stop. It's something to treasure. And now, the moments are mine, one heartbeat at a time.